Welcome, all of you fellow arcanists out there, to the Frith Guild podcast, where we explore an amazing world full of mystical creatures and their partners. Our hosts are Eric Smith and Scott Wareham, and they'll be your guides along this journey through death and dragons. So grab your Eldrin, strap on your swords, and get ready to defend the Argo Empire from evil. Throughout this series, if you have not caught up to the chapters being discussed today, we urge you to hit the pause button, grab your copy of this wonderful book, and catch up. We'll be here when you get back. Volke discovers that the cool arcanist who hired Karna is part of a larger organization, which has been coordinating multiple parrot ships with coded messages, plans on stealing the god creature runestones on the night following the sovereign dragon bonding ceremony, and also plans to release plague creatures throughout the city as a distraction to cover their escape. Master Zelfrey informs the Steelthorn Inquisitors about the plague creatures, and assigns the Frith Guild the task of guarding the runestones. Then, on the night of the gala, the Dolestone preventing magic use within the castle shuts off. Master Zelfrey sends Volke to find out what is going on, while he looks around the castle with his mimic senses. But before we get into the book, let's look at a piece of advice from the series. Step 22 on the Pillar of Ruma says fortitude. Without it, we allow pain dictate our lives. With that, let's join Eric and Scott for the final 5 chapters of Coliseum Arcanist.
Welcome back to the Frith Guild podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
I'm the co-host, Scott.
And today we are going over chapters 56 through 60 of Coliseum Arcanist, which is the last 5 chapters of this book. It's crazy how fast we get through this book.
I know, it's a big book, too.
It's one chunky boy.
Yes, it's a thick boy.
Before we get into today's podcast, we want to thank everybody for listening. Ask if you could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Give us a review, kind of whatever you can with wherever you're listening or watching on. We do also want to remind you that the Frith Chronicles Wiki link is in the description below, along with the Capital Station Discord server, which is Shammy's. And you can jump on over there for discussions and stuff like that they have over there. And we do want to let everybody know that next week's episode will be an interview with John Stovall. He is a lit RPG author, and he's actually Shammy's wife.
Good for him. Good for him.
He is a lit RPG author and Shammy's husband. We also want to make sure that you catch that we have a special episode going on over the comic that Shammy is coming out with for the Knightmare Arcanist. I know she's already put out first few pages, but we're going to go over that as well. So definitely be looking forward to that. And without further ado, we're going to get into chapter 56.
56, where we left off, the King Basilisk Arcanist. So Volke had just shadow stepped up to the throne room. We don't really know why Zelfrey didn't follow, but Volke is alone in the throne room, and he stumbles across Prince Rashan, who had actually disabled the Nullstone. So the queen ends up storming in, and along with Prince Rashan, there's also a man in a hood, and he is introduced as the King Basilisk Arcanist. He's wearing this armor made out of King Basilisk scales. Definitely not a good sign when that's your armor. And he wants revenge for his family being killed. So the queen had killed off what she thought to be all the King Basilisks, but she missed one. I'll go back so you can say it. I'm not stealing your line. I'm not stealing your line. And in there with the queen and Rashan, there's a man in a hood, and he's introduced to be the King Basilisk Arcanist. He's wearing armor made out of King Basilisk scales. Definitely not a good sign. And he's come for revenge because the queen killed off his entire bloodline.
Looks like she missed one.
A pretty important one, it turns out to be.
Right.
So he is out for revenge, and he sprays the queen along with all the other guards in the throne room with poison. So poison from a King Basilisk, it's supposed to be one of the most deadly poisons. She sprays fire from her sovereign dragon. She's immune to the poison because of trinkets. So one of the things we kind of learned earlier was that the whole guard and everyone all had these unicorn trinkets to protect her. So The poison isn't effective. She returns fire with fire. She fights fire with fire. But the hatchling actually jumps in front and ends up protecting Rashawn. Rashawn takes out a pouch, empties it, and all the trinkets in the room turn to dust. And we come to find out that this is a nullstone dust, so it's a powder, and along with dissolving all the trinkets goes her immunity to poison and the guards' immunities to poison, so everyone falls to the ground dead.
Freaking fat pouches. People not taking them seriously.
No, Zaxxas would be very jealous of the fat pouch usage.
But it didn't go boom.
It did not go boom, but it did it had its own effect. So along with all of their trinkets, the Wendigo trinket that Volke had as well, so that's broken, so he's no longer has plague immunity. The evil group, I'm not quite sure what to call them, ends up teleporting in. So there's 20 people that teleport into this throne room. And in addition to that is a King Basilisk.
This is definitely a gang.
A gang would be a good word for it.
Yeah, this is definitely a gang right here.
Yes. And they're out for blood. So, and specifically, they're out for Sovereign Dragon blood. So they make a comment that they want to not only kill the Sovereign Dragon, but cut out its heart, which, given the potency of the dragon's magic, would be a pretty strong trinket.
One big trinket. What would that even do? They give them, I guess it'd be all dependent on what they imbued it with, but
I don't know. I mean, you could get the fire. I don't know if there's a way to tap into the aura, so you can maybe get like a mini prosperity bubble just around your house or something.
Like, shoot, I want white flames. Like, I feel like Zaxxas, he could have benefit pretty good from the white flames.
Yeah, he really could really enhance it.
Or even the prosperity, because then he'd be able to just continuously, not only could he heals himself because he's an arcanist, he heals himself because he's a Phoenix arcanist, and then he get the prosperity aura, so it'd be like a 3-stack.
He really went for the stacking the buffs there. Stack all my warrior buffs, leaning heavy into it. So along with all these arcanists, there's also a bunch of plague creatures that are now released into the palace. So they are out to steal the crown, as we heard earlier. They specifically want to go after Evianna, assuming to kind of kill off the bloodline. And Akiva, who is the King Basilisk Arcanist, specifically says that he's going to go in and take care of the Inquisitors, who they know are patrolling the area looking to stop anything that comes up. Volke ends up sending Luther to warn everybody, so he understands that, hey, we're better off splitting up, as every horror movie will tell you. And Volke is going to somehow save Evianna, while Luther is going to warn everybody else of what's going on so that they can try and escape.
I imagine that Luther was probably really upset about this. I know in the book, he talks about not wanting to split up because this is exactly what happened with his last arcanist. He split up and Mathis died, and props to Luther. I completely understand where he's coming from, not wanting to split up, but you got to save as many people as you can, so it makes sense logistically.
It cuts deep though when you've gone through it before, and especially with there being a King Basilisk Arcanist, like death is a probability at that point, not just a possibility, but a good probability. So
let's hope the dice roll ain't too high.
Yeah. The end of the chapter is this cool moment where, we heard about kind of the fable birth of nightmares. So we do actually see one forming from Queen Valletta. So Laetial the Nightmare comes into being from the death of a ruler.
Like, it gave me chills reading this, because as soon as she died, I'm like, wait a minute, this is the moment. This is how nightmares are made. Oh my gosh, she's about to turn into a nightmare.
Yes, we get to see it happen.
Yay.
And that brings us into chapter 57, which is Princess Evianna. So the Grandmaster Inquisitor goes straight into his bag of tricks and pulls out the Eclipse Aura. So this does also enhance Volke. So he's able to use the empowered shadows to actually go and grab Laciel and take her to safety. And his guess is that Evianna is in the training room. So he decides to head down there to try and protect her since he knows they're coming after her. On his way down there, there's Plague Fairy and Arcanist, which Volk has learned the tricks by now and knows how to kill them. So immediately reaching for the shadows so that he doesn't have to get too close. And when Volk gets down to the training room, he realizes that because of the Nullstone, the Eclipse aura doesn't actually penetrate. So he loses all of his boosted stats. And what he also realizes when he gets down there is Evianna has no clue what is going on. She is very frustrated with him because he didn't save Livia. And she only realizes that she's in danger when we see 2 sea serpent arcanists and 1 sea serpent come down into the room to come kill them. So Volk goes to protect her and is bitten.
Does it really work with the Nullstone around? I know that the plague is magical, but it's a blood plague. So does it
It might be one of those things where he has it and it's just kind of dormant until it comes out of Nullstone. But that's a good question. Could you, if you have the plague, could you hide in Nullstone and prevent it from taking hold?
And this is such a heart-stopping moment of, oh my gosh, he just contracted the plague. The trinket that he's had for all of a month now is destroyed, and there's that almost a part of me that was like, crap, did his trinket get destroyed? And I had to go back and no, yeah, it says it got destroyed. Crap, he's done and got infected.
To be fair, Karna had it for most of that month, so he didn't even really benefit when he had it. He wasn't doing too well with the lost and found then.
Hey, he had a pretty badass looking fishing jacket, okay?
Yeah. His matrix coat with probably some cough drops in the pockets.
It probably had some Werthers in there.
Yes. It's good old butterscotch candies.
And then to think about Evianna, she's having the day from hell to begin with, up until this point. And then to be like, oh, by the way, everybody's trying to kill you. Your great grandmother, I don't know if I put enough greats in there, just died and became a nightmare. And yeah, your world as you know it is done.
Yes, she is crushed. Everyone that she's close to is gone, and her light and her guide was her sister, and she no longer has that. But that does bring us into chapter 58, which is the World Serpent Runestone. So Volk picks up and carries Evianna. When he gets to the top, he realizes, hey, we only dealt with 1 sea serpent, but there were 2. And most likely that other one's hiding at the top of the stairs. So he does use his shadows to lash out at the serpent and take care of it. When he comes out into the room, there's decay dust pretty much everywhere. It ends up breaking his sword, but not his shield. And one of the things that we realize is his shield is made with additional star shards. So it is actually what is called an artifact and is immune to the decay dust. So he still has the shield, but no sword. He carries Evianna up to the throne room, and on his way there, he comes into contact with Captain Rendell, who's at the top, infected with the plague, but still fighting to protect the throne.
And he's there with his unicorn, which is a black variant of the unicorn. That's one of the ones that I didn't remember to put in there with the bestiary, but he does have a black variant, and the unicorn has a twisted horn.
It seems super cool. Like, it just feels so much more badass.
Right. And then his main weapon is the spine of a unicorn with the horn at the end of it. Like, yeah, you can't get more cool than that.
Yeah, he emanates power, that's for sure.
And he's also, this is kind of his last stand. He understands that he's going to end up dead too, but he decides that he's not going to cower. He's going to do everything in his power to take as many with him as he can. So yeah, we commend him for that and for protecting everybody as long as he can.
Yeah, he has a lot of honor that he is holding on to and is willing to do everything. As far as he's come, he's not going to let anything stop him at this point from taking care of the throne and the family. Volk talks with him and actually uses his augmentation to allow Rendell to see in the dark, which is very helpful, and then goes into the throne room. And when he goes into the throne room, everything in the throne room is just kind of hanging in the air. There's a Rizzle Arcanist in the room, and we realize that this is one of the Rizzle powers is to manipulate gravity.
Why hasn't Ilya figured this out yet? And oh my gosh.
Yeah, did they not know what her power was, so they couldn't teach her? Does nobody know where the Rizzle power comes from?
I thought it was kind of the usual, okay, here's how you evoke your magic, here's how you manipulate your magic, here's how you augment your magic. So I figured with Rizzles it shouldn't be much different, and I know Zelfrey can only do what is he's copying, so...
But he seems to know so much that you would think if he would at least play around with it and try and figure out, be like, hey, I know there's a magic power here that we're not using, so let me just try and mess around and see if I can make it work.
Right, like here's how you manipulate things, so, or the feeling that you would get when you're manipulating it, so just try that.
Yeah, try something. So
But,
we
I mean, so that's pretty cool. Gravity.
it is amazing. So you combine, I can teleport and I can control gravity. That's a pretty ball right there.
Right, like there's not much you can't do at this point.
No, there's not.
I mean, if only we knew this when we fought Callisto.
Yeah. Oh, and they get the fire. They can spew fire too.
Yeah,
so they
the disintegrating fire, like
yeah, racking up powers here. We do come across the Rizzle Arcanist and the Rizzle, who is named Meatbag, is absolutely amazing. And unfortunately, this is a dread form Rizzle. So it has 2 heads, its body's interwoven, it's an absolute mess.
I love the name. It's like an NPC that's important, but not important enough to have an actual name, but not unimportant enough to be just like player or your character.
It feels like like I'm playing like original Pokemon, and it's like, name your rival, Meatbag. Like, what's the worst name I can think of as a 7-year-old? Yeah, that's about it.
Yes, that is exactly what it is.
So Meatbag and the Arcanist are shooting everyone with plague bullets, so getting the blood there and then firing this revolver around to infect everybody. Volke realizes that gravity doesn't affect shadows, so he actually shadow steps behind them, grabs a sword that's just floating around the room, and unleashes terrors and goes to stab them. He stabs the guy, Meatbag's Arcanist, and Meatbag's response is, you missed. They remove the cloak, and the Rizzle is like sneaking through him. His vital organs are rearranged, so where he should have organs, he doesn't, and he's not actually killed by this stab.
Again, like, apparently Rizzle magic just can do what they want now. Like,
All powerful.
Yeah, for being what it is, hecking good.
Yes.
And like this is one of those characters that legitimately creeped me out when I was even the second time rereading this. It creeps me out more than like the ghoul or any other undead character. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a 2-headed Rizzle, the one head just like snickers really maniacally.
It just feels wrong. Like, the ghoul's like, okay, understand there has to be a dark to offset the good. Like, I understand like the underworld piece of it, but the dread form just feels wrong.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It just feels wrong.
Yes. The Meatbag ends up shooting a bunch of Rizzle fire at Volke. He blocks it with his shield and ends up reflecting it back and knocks Meatbag and the Arcanist out. He goes to the Queen's room. He decides, in his loving nature, not to go and make sure that he kills them, which I thought was a strange, live up to your worst trait there.
Don't hesitate.
Don't hesitate. And he hesitated big there. But he heads into the Queen room, and he finds a nullstone box. Evianna helps him open with it.
All I gotta say is, I guess we can figure out who her favorite great grandchild is here.
Yes, she's got all the tricks. She knows every trick in the book here. So inside the box is the runestones, and coming back to haunt him is the Frith Arcanist and Meatbag. And as they show up, Volk does actually pocket the Jade runestone. Meatbag tries to teleport into his body. Also, just feels very wrong.
Maybe this is why Nicklin should not definitely be trying to teleport things in and or out of people's bodies. And Nicklin should be taking notes on this so that next time he has an idea to do a party trick, maybe it shouldn't involve swallowing things and then teleporting them out of the body.
Yeah, I didn't think that part of the story was foreshadowing, but it turns out that it was.
Kudos to you, Shabby. Kudos.
Yeah, that was a hidden gem there that the second time coming around, I was like, oh, that's going to come back to us.
Full circle here. Oh my gosh.
Yes. So while Volk is trying not to have Arizel teleported into his body, they actually go and grab the trunk with the remaining runestones in it and are going to run away. Volk luckily uses the shadow tendrils to actually grab several of the runestones. So they're split about half and half now between Volk and the enemy. And as the Rizal Arcanist is leaving, he refers to himself as the second ascension.
Well, this is one of those moments of just like, if he wouldn't have been sitting there lollygagging around, playing with gravity, making him go in a circle, like, look at me, I got all the runestones, ha ha ha.
He was having a good time, and it also came back to haunt him. Give me 1 sec. I'm getting terrorized by him. Come on, Gargoyle. Do you want to go take something?
So after he declares he's the second ascension, this is where chapter 59, the Requiem Aura, starts up at, and Evianna is absolutely confused as to why Volk is protecting her. And I mean, Volk's a good guy anyways, so I don't think it would have mattered whether he made a promise to Livia or not, but I think he's just a good guy to begin with.
Also, she's a princess.
Okay.
You're kind of a big deal.
I guess it's just so that you guys owe us a favor. So again, I love knightmare, or I guess I love Luther quotes. Lashel actually gives us quite a few good quotes herself, and she says that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's a determination to act even when fear permeates your very being. I don't know who started teaching her the steps of the pillar of Ruma, but like she already knows what's going on.
Queen Valletta apparently spent some time on the island getting to know the pillar, so
I bet Volk is secretly like, yes, somebody knows the pillar. If it wasn't life or death situation right now, he would be totally nerding out about the pillar of Ruma.
He would be. He'd be fangirling real hard.
She does give us another quote. A true knight understands that strength and excellence aren't traits, they're outcomes. They're the result of courage. They're what happens when you choose to risk, protect, or push forward, even when it seems like you might not succeed. And then where's Luther in all this? Like, it's been a while now that Luther has been gone. Like, I feel like Luther should have, I don't know, maybe tried to come back to Volk and be like, hey, I'm here, like, let's do this.
Find him somewhere. He's running around the halls yelling for him.
I mean, he's a dang shadow in the middle of the Eclipse Aura. He should be able to find him pretty quickly.
Yeah, he's all powerful at that point.
So Volk shadow steps with Evianna to get to the ground. And again, he's injured. He's tired as dog as all get out. He's been running up and down stairs. I think the only thing saving him right now is the Eclipse Aura. I'm sure if that wasn't happening, he probably wouldn't be able to stand. And the whole time, making sure Lashel doesn't get close to him because he's bleeding. We don't want him to get his plague blood on her now. Finally managed to escape into a hedge maze as a King Basilisk and the Sovereign Dragon are fighting in the throne room. And this is where Fane meets up with Volk and Evianna. And Volk gives Fane 3 of the runestones, and Fane reiterates that Volk is way too trusting.
100% agree.
Like, I know Fane has turned a leaf here, turned the corner, but after everything that just happened, really, you're gonna let him have them?
His decision. That's all I'll say. His decision.
Volk must be Canadian or something, eh?
Yeah, he really is. He's too good. We also very coolly, in addition to the King Basilisk and the dragon fighting, there's another King Basilisk that shows up because Zelfrey has taken the form.
And this is just badass. Like, which one's the right one to be attacking? Which one's the wrong one? Zelfrey's probably just going ham on everybody as much as he can.
Yeah, that's taking advantage of an opportunity because he's going to have some fun with that one.
Oh yeah, like you got to give everything a test drive. You know, like you don't get this opportunity very often. That's like somebody offering you to drive a Ferrari or some shit like that, and you go 25 miles an hour the whole time. Like you let that thing sing. So as Fane, Volk, and Evianna are getting away from things through the maze, they end up to the front of the castle, essentially, where the Grandmaster Inquisitor is, and he is just wrecking people. He's got these Eclipse Aura up, he's got shadow chains and hooks going, and then all of a sudden, Volk's heartbeat begins to beat really irregularly and out of rhythm. And this is the Requiem aura that Fane tells us about. And this is something to do specifically with the King Basilisks. And as more death occurs in the aura, the more powerful that the King Basilisk Arcanist gets. And Akiva his main goal is to get the Grandmaster Inquisitor. So they start to fight. And Akiva is just way too swift for the Grandmaster. And this is mainly because of the Requiem aura. Like, we know that a lot of the people that were there to assist the Second Ascension in getting the runestones and all this other stuff, like, I guarantee they were brought along so that they could die, so that they could power this Requiem aura even more.
Some cannon fodder.
Exactly. Let's pump these numbers up, you know?
Yeah, those are rookie numbers.
So Vercingetorix ends up dying to the King Basilisk. This is one of those moments where we get to see the Grandmaster in true, just like badass mode. Like, he's fighting the King Basilisk, he's fighting the scoundrels from the castle, he's letting the innocents flee, he's fighting Akiva, maintaining his Eclipse aura, and trying to avoid getting hit with this venom from Akiva. And it's just one dude doing all this.
Beast mode.
So unfortunately, he does make a mistake. He does slip, and some of that venom does end up landing on him and his knightmare. And because they are combined, they always live and die as one. And unfortunately, a few drops hit him in the shoulder or in the gauntlet, I believe, and he ends up dying. And we get this confirmed when the Eclipse aura goes away. Fane does offer to help Volk, and Fane, we can see, really has turned a corner. Not only did Volk give Fane the runestones, and Fane just about being like, "You're a freaking idiot for giving me these."
You know I was a pirate, right?
Exactly. But we get to see that Fane has really truly turned a corner in his life. He's no longer going to be a pirate. He doesn't run off with the runestones, but he also is helping Volk and Evianna get out of there. And Volk ends up pushing Fane and Evianna out of the way from the poison, and Volk blocks it with his shield. And this is where Evianna's tired of watching. She's tired of everybody protecting her. She's tired of her sister. You know, obviously her sister's not there to protect her anymore, but she's tired of everybody else putting their lives on the line for her. So she demands that she is going to protect Volk now. Zelfrey and Traces are still fighting the King Basilisk as King Basilisks themselves, and they end up turning Akiva's attention back to the fight at hand, thankfully. And then another amazing Lashiel quote is, "True knights are hard to find, Evianna. The blood that created my shadow is one of your kin. If it's your goal to protect your allies and avenge those with no means to seek justice, I would be honored if you became my arcanist." And Evianna ends up bonding with Lashiel. This is one of those, it's not significant just because she's bonding to a knightmare. It's not significant only because She's underage per what they are. I think 15 is the age of an adult. She's a few years too young still. But the fact that Evianna just bonded with her Oma's knightmare is just one of those, like, it sent shivers down my back.
Yeah, it's a great moment.
Finally, into chapter 60, and hopefully you guys have been buckled in this whole ride, because it's just been a non-stop fight from the beginning of these chapters. Chapter 60 is the end of the long night. Well, shit, now Volk needs to be careful with Evianna because he's still got his plague blood.
Very cool as well. The Inquisitors Guild, somebody else takes over as Grandmaster, so we do get another new Eclipse aura created.
I bet Volk is probably like, not a moment too soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Somebody. So Adelgis starts to send directions to Volk telepathically. And I love this because this is just like a new leaf for Adelgis. New way to use his powers in a clever way. And as Volk's following the directions of Adelgis, he comes up to the wall and gets to see the rest of the guild just being badasses, like Avengers in the middle of New York City, battling it out, you know?
We saw in the tournament that they are all on a next level compared to where most apprentices are, so they've got a lot of talent to showcase.
Just makes you think all other guilds are just weak sauce in comparison.
They really are.
Like, what are they even doing? Like, I don't feel like they're even trying at this point. They're just...
You didn't send your guild off to kill a Leviathan? What are you doing?
Like, come on. Like, that's like first couple of weeks kind of thing right there.
That's our entry exam.
So as Volk's approaching the rest of his guild, he does realize that if he goes back, he could actually somehow possibly give somebody else the arcane plague. And this isn't something that he wants to have happen, like, intentionally, obviously. But even if Zaxxas cuts him on accident and then gets the blood on him, like, the danger is way too close to having somebody else get infected. He does end up giving all of his runestones and his shield over to the Frith Guild, so that way they can track down the World Serpent. They have the runestone for the World Serpent when they need it. And he introduces Evianna to Ilia and tells her to go with the Frith Guild, and that Ilia is Volk's Livia. So Volk is leaving to protect the rest of the guild and leaving Evianna in more than capable hands. Fane decides that he's going to leave with Volk, and Volk is kind of like, what the hell are you doing, man? I don't want to infect anybody else. Fane was probably just like, dude, I'm a main eater. Like, I can't get the plague.
Finally, a good guy has the power.
Right? Oh my goodness. For once.
I know. Saved for waiting for this to come to advantage.
Oh, and by the way, Luther is finally back to Volk, and
he made it.
Yeah.
I just picture him like a little puppy sitting there wagging his shadow. I'll be like, hi, I've been waiting all day for you to get home.
Oh my god. I'm so excited to pee myself. But you're home.
You're home. This is like the worst day ever.
You were gone for so long, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and if you're going to come back, and oh my gosh. So Volk very quickly tells Luther, hey, I got the plague. You know, thanks for giving him the heads up. And Luther acknowledges that only arcanists are affected by the plague, and they take a lot longer to be affected. And Luther does not want to lose another arcanist. I almost cried at this. It would be my honor to protect you from this darkness. And I'm like, God dang it. Luther's I don't know how he's gonna do this, but he's gonna freaking do something to himself. Like, I don't know if they have like a self-destruct button or something they can press, but like, I'm like, no, this is not happening. Luther is not gonna sacrifice himself to save Volk. And I'm not crying, you're crying, okay?
And when I first read this, this was the most recent book that came out, and I was like, is this a trilogy? Is this how it ends? And I was like, this would be like an absolute insane ending point. So I was extremely concerned that Luther was going to self-destruct.
Oh my, I couldn't even imagine not having a next book to be like, okay, something has to happen positive because there's another book. There's 5 more books after this. So
The story continues.
right. Whew. I could only imagine to be in your place, in your shoes when you read that. Like, my gosh.
It's like it's the third book. It could be a trilogy. I was like, this could get real bad, but I could see, especially with the other twists and turns, like I could see it happening.
So Adelgis decides he's going to stick with Volk as well. And Volk's like, why? Why are you like, please go away from me? And Adelgis is like, look, you were there for me when I was sick. So I'm going to be here for you while you're sick. I think this is like the most humane and emotional that Adelgis has ever been since we met him. So Volk is basically like, how are we going to find Thiessen to fix this? Because if anybody's going to fix this or can fix this, it's going to be Thiessen. He's talked about it before and basically said that Gilly's just a pretender. So obviously he's got to have some kind of clue. And Adelgis kind of points to the airship that happens to be floating over the castle, and that rope ladder just happens to come down with Karna standing on it. And this is like end scene, like the end of the book. I just have to say that this is a very cruel ending. Again, especially with your point of view, if for those that read the books as they were coming out from Nightmare through, I would not have been able to. I would not have been okay.
Yeah, it's like you said, at least with Karna coming down, there's some story left. Luther's not gonna RIP, but it is a lot of twists and turns from kind of where we stood even a few chapters ago with Livia still alive and contending for the dragon.
And such a massive turn that Volk is all of a sudden he's abandoning his guild. He's going on the Sun Chaser. Like, what kind of crazy is going to happen next? But unfortunately, for those that are listening, this is where this book ends. So we will have to continue that in a couple weeks. One thing I did not realize that I probably overlooked at some point in this whole series is that we never talked about the King Basilisk in the bestiary.
We talked about the regular basilisk, the little chicken snake. But we did not go into the evolved form.
So the King Basilisk is a tier 4 mystical creature. So again, does not get affected by Nullstone. The mythology is taken from European myth of a basilisk, which is typically a rather small snake. And I'm guessing Shammy was just using the rule of cool, as she says, as a let's make this really big and it be a king and make it just ridiculously deadly in all way, shape, and form. And that way it fits more into her series. So I applaud you for the creativity on that one, Shammy. As far as the Trial of Worth goes, we don't quite know what it is. So that's something we're going to have to look forward to. Hopefully in the bestiary when it comes out, have some information on the King Basilisk. We do know the reproduction is progeny. They lay eggs in a nesting grounds. However, we don't know where in the nesting grounds would be. They are able to evoke venom, which a single drop can kill people, as it killed the Grandmaster Inquisitor and would have killed Callisto had he not had his unicorn trinket. Still really salty about that, but another time. King Basilisks are able to augment people, other people into stone if they look them in the eyes. And they have passive abilities of immunity to poisons, which makes sense, and the immunity to nullstone effects. We did get to see their auras, which was the Requiem aura that becomes more powerful with each death inside of it, and also causes everyone else to have irregular heartbeats. And we don't see any examples of a true form. So again, if we get the King Basilisk in the bestiary, maybe we'll get some more information later on.
The other one that we'll touch base on that we really should have touched base on earlier is the Sovereign Dragon. So mythology, it's believed to adapted from an ideology that under one great ruler, a nation would prosper well. So it really does stand for that prosperity. Its Trial of Worth we saw, which is a series of 5 tasks that ends with a battle royale. So there's one person left standing. It is tier 4 as a dragon. It's reproduction, it's progeny, so we did see this as well with the hatchling, but it's not a set schedule. It's very irregular. It's very infrequent. So whenever it is born, there's a lot of celebration and they have the whole tournament for it. They are able to evoke white hot flames. We don't have much info on their manipulation or augmentation at this point, but in terms of pass abilities, we do know that they are immune to Nullstone. In their aura, we did see as well, which is the prosperity aura, which allows for plants to grow faster, people make better decisions overall, the economy improves. It just leads to general happiness. And this is a very large aura, and they talk about that sovereign dragon rulers who have been around for centuries are able to cast this essentially over a whole nation at one time. The true form, we did see Rashawn has a true form sovereign dragon. So we saw it got the little crown of thorns, its horns kind of molded together. And it comes about because he completely embraces an autocratic nature.
Of course, it has a freaking crown for it. Its horns turned into a crown, of course. And then finally, we have the sea serpent, which again we don't have a whole lot of information on. And when I say a whole lot of information, I mean like absolutely just about nothing.
Although the snake-like Eldrin which folk face at the end of Coliseum Arcanist are referred to as sea serpents, this actually appears to be a type of creature, like a fairy or a dragon or a canine, instead of specific species. Elsewhere in the same book, folk refers to an ogopogo as a long sea serpent, even though they live in lakes, and in the third place in the same book, also refers to a store worm as a sea serpent multiple times.
A quick Google search shows that mythology could possibly have been from Norse mythology, the Jormungandr, which is also known as the Midgard snake, Midgard serpent, and was considered a child of Loki. So, kind of gives you an idea of where that one's going to go. For those that have seen the TV series with the alligator Loki.
I didn't even consider that, but that's fair.
So the sea serpent in mythology again was said to cause rough seas and storms in the northern Atlantic. This is way back yonder when not a lot of things were known, and pretty much when you look to the horizon, you assume that there's some kind of sea monster or something like that. And that's about all we know as far as mythology goes. For evocation, the only thing we can kind of infer upon with what we read in the book was that it can pretty much throw up boiling water. And it's kind of that question mark just because how much of it is dread or the arcane plague, how much is it the actual sea serpent itself? So obviously it is not a man-eater though, since it is infected by the plague.
It's very true.
With that is the end of this week's episode, with a quick reminder that John Stovall will be our guest next week for an interview. Again, he has his own RPG series. He has several series actually in that genre of books. We're so excited to talk to him. We do want to thank everybody for listening. We post every Wednesday morning around 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, 8 Pacific. And that we are on all podcasting platforms along with YouTube. So kind of catch us wherever you want. If you want to watch us on video or listen to us in person, Dan Mackison, who is our editor, does a very great job at adding pictures and links to things. So if you want to watch the YouTube, it does have some cool pictures in there. He throws in there for us. So if you want to reach out, you can get us at Gmail at frithguildpod@gmail.com, or reach out to us on Facebook or pretty much any other social media at Frith Guild Podcast. We want to thank the Frith Chronicles Wiki, and that is such a great resource. I know there's going to be a lot of updates coming to it soon whenever the bestiary comes out, so just be on the lookout for that. And Scott, do you have anything else you wanted to add to it?
No, excited to talk to John and get a little more insight into this family of writers.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks all for listening, and we'll see you next week.